Today's truth bomb: not everyone is made to be an entrepreneur, but that doesn't make you less ambitious. Now, if you've been quietly wondering why you feel so drained and why everything feels so heavy, this episode will explain why. Hey there, welcome back to the Pursuit of Happy Well. We are so excited you're back. I am excited about the topic we are covering today. We're covering the rise of the intrapreneur. And it might be something you have never heard of, and I'm so fired up about it because I think it is a necessary conversation. So listen, before we dive into it, if you have not left us a review, told people about us, subscribed, do us a favor, go ahead and do that right now. Send this. I think this is going to be a huge one because we are going to unpack some of the myths and misnomers that are behind the scenes of entrepreneurship. And my hope is that you will feel relief after hearing this episode today, that you will maybe an audible sigh, that you'll be like, oh my gosh, it's not just me. So I'm excited for unpacking this topic today. I'm actually hard to sit in my seat. I could just get up and do a whole keynote on this.
That's what you're doing right now. You can't sit still.
I'm pumped. So I think there's a couple things here. The reason why I'm so excited about this is because this was my people. This was, before this current business that we're, getting ready to launch is on every stage. I was, the signature talk was like, quit the 9-to-5, be your own boss, build your dream. And this idea of like, well, if you don't build your dream, you're going to build someone else's. And it kind of vilifies the 9-to-5 or vilifies working for somebody else. And I feel like the only solution people have been given for time freedom, for flexibility or autonomy is you got to be your own boss, entrepreneurship. But I'm going to make a very bold statement. And especially with what I have seen, entrepreneurship can be for anyone, but it doesn't mean it should be. Like just because you can doesn't mean you should, right?
I hate the shoulding language, but I understand what you're saying.
Did I should people be like, you shouldn't be?
Yeah. No, I don't know if that's what you meant. I understand what you mean. Yeah,
I don't like shoulding either. So
Yes.
what I'm trying to say is like, what I think is happening is I think we have this generation of people that have been sold entrepreneurship.
As a should.
Yes. Like you should. You should, leave the 9-to-5.
You want time freedom. You want to be your own boss. You want to be able to do this and da-da-da.
Yes.
You should become an entrepreneur.
And they have been sold an inaccurate picture.
Yeah.
And then they think something is wrong with them, that they're flawed, that they're never going to see success. And then they think, okay, now my only option is to go back to a 9-to-5 that has almost been conditioned in their mind, like, poor you, how, that's a scam. I swear if I see another reel that says like, the real scam is, working 9-to-5 and, until you're 60 and then retire and, then live your life. I think I understand the sentiment, but to shame people for choosing careers is beyond me. Yeah. And it might be for some people. So we know about.
You're really fired up. So I want to know why. Can we dive in? You're really fired up and I like it. It's good. Let's go.
Yeah, because I think the thing I feel so fired up about is because people are internalizing shame because they were sold an inaccurate picture of entrepreneurship. They were sold it. They went into it. It feels awful. It feels heavy. And they've been told that the 9-to-5 is, a sign of regression if they were to go back to that career. And then so there's all these people walking around with like thinking, I signed up for time freedom and for autonomy and it's heavy, it's hard. I feel like I'm not wired for it. It must be me. And I feel so deeply like I get emotional about it because I see people that want those things and those are good things. Autonomy, flexibility, choice, financial freedom. And they run into entrepreneurship and then they think it must be me. Something's wrong with me.
Meaning entrepreneurship feels heavy. It feels burdensome. It's
and they're not
enjoyable,
thriving.
They're not thriving.
Yeah. Or not even that. Like some could be quote unquote succeeding on paper, making the money and hating their life, wondering why. Or those that are putting so much time and effort and energy, and it's not clicking and not moving, and they can't understand why. And that's because there is something called intrapreneurship. So there is a difference. We're going to unpack that. But first, I want to call out, like, is this a dream or a drain? Because I think a lot of people have been sold a dream, and it feels like a total drain.
Ooh. Are we going to turn this into kind of like a Jeopardy episode where I can be like, dream or drain for 300, Alex?
Yeah.
Can we do that? That would be awesome.
Yeah, we're going to go common myths for 1,000.
Common myths for 1,000.
Yeah, common myths that burn people out. Do you want to share a couple?
Thank you, Trebek.
Let's talk about, for entrepreneurship, let's talk about the common myths that burn people out. Do you want to take the first couple?
Sure.
Or at least the first one?
So common myth number 1, be your own boss.
Which I find is very funny because we are bosses.
We are bosses. So the reality, you are accountable to everyone.
Yeah, so we think we're like, I'm going to go be my own boss. No one can tell me to do anything. I'm going to be like, you're going to have the rude awakening that everyone is going to tell you everything, because you know who becomes your boss is your customer. You know who becomes your boss is like you might, not report to somebody directly like a traditional 9-to-5 employer, but you are now held accountable to the people you serve. And that's another level. Like, it's not the same, right? But people are like, yeah, be my own boss. Sounds good.
Well, and I think the other side with that is like, be your own boss is great if think about this. You're your own boss, which also means you're the only one that can produce certain things.
Yes.
So accountable not just to your customers, but also to all of your contractors, producing all the content, making sure everything gets out on time, anything that's deliverable, right? Which that happens in a 9-to-5, but not quite the same because you're holding all the bags.
That's it. Yes. Congratulations. You're not just the boss. You are the customer service rep. You're the fulfillment center. You're the marketing guy. You're all those things. But here's the thing, with be your own boss, there's also a downside to that. You also have to be your own boss.
Right.
You actually have to boss yourself.
Yeah.
Meaning, like, you actually have to be on top of yourself in getting up and producing the work. And I found that some people
casting vision,
all of it,
ground,
you have got to be the one initiating that. And no one's going to call you and be like, hey, you called in sick today. Where were you?
Right.
You're reporting to yourself. And so I find that some people, without some external cue or external authority, so to speak, to make sure they're showing up, they just don't. They don't know how to boss themselves into showing up. And that's not a shame thing. I think it's realizing, I forgot that this was a part of the deal.
Yeah.
Like, I have time freedom, kind of, but I also now have to manage my time in a completely different way, right? Which leads us to our next one.
Which is the myth of like, you're going to have time freedom.
Can we unpack that, Scott? Like, even in the season where we are right now, it's just like, you have your own company. I think unless you are a company owner, you have no idea, right? And I think there's things that are touted on Instagram like, I was on my vacation and $30,000 just trickled in while I was sipping Mai Tais. Did you like that voice?
I've never heard you do that voice before.
It's because it's annoying.
Who is that? Is that like...
It's an influencer voice.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, time freedom. I think that what's attractive about that is the ability to work when you want.
Yeah.
Right? That works if work is always working.
Well, and this idea of working when you want, let's not confuse that with when you feel like it.
Correct.
Or even like forgetting that how much time you have to put into something to actually get time freedom. It's not like, I think people think like, I'm going to have all kinds of free time.
Right.
Which is different than time freedom, where it's like I'm controlling where I put my time versus I'm going to have so much free time. And it's just like, sorry, time freedom actually comes after years of putting in the time, not necessarily the grind, because we talk about, doing things well and sustainably and
sustainable. Yeah.
Yes. But let's be honest about it's a real time commitment, right?
So. All I had in my head was just David Beckham. Be honest.
You did that, and I think in episode 3 or something.
I will,
It's a good one though.
It is a good one.
Be honest.
And I'm terrible with his accent, but I just think about that all the time.
You know, he wasn't supposed to be on set that day.
That's what I heard.
And it became the most viral part and most important part of that. One of the most important parts of the documentary.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
like they were
authentic.
specifically filming that day because they thought he wouldn't be around. And he had to go back in the house for something. And he made that comment with Victoria Beckham, like, oh my, we were a working class. He's like, be honest. What car did your dad drive you to school? A Rolls Royce.
Yeah. It's like, I don't think I've ever even seen one of those in person.
Yep.
But this idea, so hold on. So that idea about time freedom and being your own boss and having to manage yourself, I think also is understand, and in some jobs this can bleed too, and that's another conversation. But I think this time freedom piece also means that managing turning off.
Oh man, that's another beast.
Right? Because I remember when we moved into this, you moved out of hair and into our next business, that there's always something to be done.
Oh my gosh.
Always.
That was
something that can be refined, something that can be created, something that can be posted, another contact, always. And so part of time freedom is also managing not working. Yeah. So as much as it is showing up, it's also deciding to be done and saying, hey, that's enough for today.
That is still some of my work.
Yeah.
It depends. Like when I get in flow, I'm like, don't stop me. I'm just going to keep going until we ride this wave out of my ADHD super focus. But that was a huge learning curve for me because with hair, I would like do my people's hair, sweep up shop, clean up, go home. And that was it. Yeah. Work was done. Yeah. Entrepreneurship, the lights are always on. And at least up here, in my mind. Yeah. So yeah, time freedom, it's in fact, sometimes there's a lot of time sacrifice in the beginning that people don't realize until they're in it, being like, wait, what? I thought the money was just going to passively come in and my time was just going to be there. It takes time.
All right, next myth.
Yeah.
Doing what you love.
Ugh.
And the reality when you're your own boss is you get to do a lot of what you don't love. And the reason is because you're holding
everything.
all the bags. So you're the one doing, you're filing the pay. Like even in our business, we have a team that does taxes and all that kind of stuff, but it's still a lot relies on me getting paperwork done.
Yeah.
Which I thought, man, like entrepreneur, paperwork's done. Don't ever need to do that again. Wrong.
Yep. Yeah. And the idea of, especially when you're starting out, like you might love, for example, me coaching. I love coaching. It fills my cup. That's 20% of what I do. 80%, marketing, vision casting, leading teams, systems, infrastructure, all of those things. So people are like, I love this one aspect, but everything else, like I'm having to wear 10 other hats. And I see this happen with people. They're like, I just want to sell this product, but they're like, but I know nothing about sales and marketing and tech. And so now they have to learn all these skills to support the one thing they do love doing. So doing what you love, yeah.
Okay, next one.
Yeah.
You want to do that? Make more money.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. The reality of that is there's instability for quite some time as you are gathering your data, establishing routines. Like there's just not, it is not like you're getting a regular paycheck where it's like, this is my salary. This is what I get. I clock in, I go out. It's like, nope. There's so many variables. There's so much financial unpredictability. And so it feels quite unstable for some time, right? And so people go into it to thinking like, I'm going to go and be an entrepreneur because I crave stability. And then they realize how unstable being an entrepreneur is at first. Like it's the most unstable thing you will do.
I don't even know if I would even say at first. I think some businesses and even some seasons.
Oh yeah.
There's just, you put time in doesn't equate what you get paid out. It's not like clocking in, you get a paycheck at the end of the week because I worked 40 hours or whatever. It's different. You own all of that. So any money that comes in, yeah, sure. That's great. Good for you. Depending on how you do your profit margins and so forth. Yeah. You get to keep a lot of that. Also, if any money doesn't come in, that's also on you. Yeah. And so you get to carry both sides of that.
Yeah. And we have known business owners where there are seasons where they're working twice as hard to make the same amount they did the year prior.
Yep.
And it's not like, oh, I work twice as hard, we make twice as much. Nope. Doesn't always work that way. And sometimes it's like I work twice as less and sometimes I do make more. It's like there's
twice as less.
Twice as less.
Half the time?
That's it. Half the time. And I make more. I mean, like, yes, sometimes like it's every seasoned business owner, like entrepreneur who owns a business, they will tell you there are seasons where I feel like I work less and make more. And sometimes I feel like I make more and
work less.
Yeah.
Yeah, make
work
more
more
less.
And make less. Yeah. And so that's just part of it.
All right, last one. And this is the one I think
this one gives me
kind of the cringe a little bit.
Yeah.
And the last one is that anyone can do it.
Yeah. Technically, yes. Anyone can. But that not everyone should. Not everyone should. And it's not best for everyone. And it's not everyone is wired for entrepreneurship. And we're going to actually unpack that because I do think you have to be wired a certain way to love and desire and pursue entrepreneurship. I don't think I knew that wiring was in me until like it started in small doses. And then I was like, I love this. This is 100% what makes me come alive. What makes me come alive? A perfect example is have you ever watched those like extreme Red Bull sports where they're like these Red Bull sponsored athletes and they're doing these insane things? And the ones I've always seen are like the mountain bike guys that are on like a mountain ledge that's like
single track.
Oh my gosh, it's like 3 inches wide and they're like going along the canyon and my heart rate is through the roof just watching a video. And these guys do it every day. And I'm like, they are wired differently. Like they come alive. They love it. For me looking at it, my nervous system wants to collapse.
Yeah.
I think entrepreneurship is the same. Some of us we are the Red Bull athletes of business and we live for that adrenaline. Whereas most people, you put them on that trail and on that bike, they will collapse under the adrenaline, and entrepreneurship is no different. So speaking of that, speaking of why the collapse, why some people thrive, there's actually real stressors and risks to entrepreneurship. So we talked about the myths. Let's talk about like the actual stressors. Do you want to tackle like the first one? Yeah,
the first one, this idea of decision fatigue. And we talked a little bit about this in the sense that you are your own boss, which also means any vision, any initiatives, you're constantly making the decisions, right?
Yeah. I think of like this idea of decision fatigue. I think of if you've ever built a house. We have not built one from the ground up, but we did a really extensive remodel. And I have heard from many people in the builds that they get so exhausted in the decision making from like light switch covers to like how many outlets they put in places
minutia.
To like the tiny little things of like, do you want this grout color or this grout color? Let's talk about the trim color, the ceiling color, all the like tiny little things. And by the end of it, because they've made so many decisions, they're wiped out. And I find that a million little decisions to put the house together is just like entrepreneurship. Like you want to be like, but sometimes they're the little decisions that change everything. So your brain's like, if I have to make one more decision, it's like, but this decision could be a massive revenue driver. This one careless decision might be what messes up your funnel. Like, oh my gosh, babe, how many times did we see like tiny little misses that cost us
a lot of money?
I can't even imagine. So the decision fatigue. The second one is emotional isolation. Oh man, that is so true. Like sometimes feeling like you're alone in holding the risk, the fear. If this all goes south, it's all on me. There were seasons where like I stayed awake at night thinking about the people who counted on us. Yeah. Right. And so that emotional isolation, like nobody else is holding that with you. You are on your own. You know, and I think for the first time when I was awake at night thinking about like, it's so funny. We have like, but before you become a business owner, as you like manage your house, you're like, I have to pay the bills. I have to pay my mortgage. I have to keep the lights on. Running a company is like that times 100. Like we have to pay our contractors. We have to make sure we're in profit. We have to protect our margins. We have to make sure we hit payroll. So it was like I was feeling that on a much bigger level. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the weight of this, the emotional and mental weight of that, the load, the cognitive load for sure.
Yeah. Another one is this idea of identity fusion.
Ugh.
And this probably leads more to like personal brand, but I think even as if you're offering a service, let's say that you're a business owner and you just offer a service as a contractor, there's still this identity of like, if the business isn't going well, it must be a reflection purely on me and solely on me.
Yeah, which means everything feels deeply personal. Every win, anytime we over-identify with a win or over-identify with a loss, that essentially says we're too enmeshed or in our business. Like we over-identify with our business.
Intertwined.
Yeah, too interconnected, being like, I am my business is me. And that 100% happened to me towards the end of my recent business, where I was like, oh, if we're not performing, it's because it's a reflection of me. Like it must be that people don't like me. And then like every rejection feels catastrophic to our emotional well-being.
Yeah, and it hits on multiple layers, right?
Oh my gosh.
Business, personal, familial, like
everywhere. Everything. Yeah. The identity fusion. Yeah. This next one, I actually think this might be the thing. This one thing I think would be the biggest deterrent for people realizing entrepreneurship is not for me. And it is the uncertainty tolerance. Your ability to tolerate high levels of uncertainty for unknown amounts of time. How long can you sit with the discomfort of uncertainty while also feeling risk, while also feeling doubt? Most people can only handle uncertainty for a very short period of time. I would say as business owners, like, gosh, we've been sitting in uncertainty for like 6 months, being like, we don't know.
I would say longer than that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just being like, we don't know. Guess we'll find out. And we're putting a lot of money and cash capital behind this thing. That we have our inner certainty, but like as far as like we're not 100% sure.
Have to do some testing.
And most people cannot do that. They're like, I cannot move forward unless I am absolutely sure. And so it's this uncertainty. It becomes too much on them emotionally and mentally, and it causes them to collapse under the pressure.
Now, let me ask you a question, because to push back a little bit, I would say that any job is uncertain. Whether you're an entrepreneur or not, if we think that something's, I think this might be mind-blowing for some people, is like every job has a level of uncertainty. So is it more that like in terms of the entrepreneur, the uncertainty level is like to an 11 Spinal Tap, like if you know what that is, and that 9 to 5 is more like a 5. Is that what you mean by the uncertainty piece?
I don't know how often people. I think it depends on your job. I would imagine if you're in tech, you probably carry a higher level of uncertainty, especially knowing like whenever there's a recession, like there's massive layoffs in tech or things like that. You understand those things, but I really do think we have seen this. We've seen this, that when people move into salary, they get comfortable.
Yeah.
That like,
there's
I get to show up.
Level of comfort there.
Well, and there is. Let's just be honest. There is. It's like I get to show up. I get to put in my hours, and then I get to go home. And I'm going to see the same amount of pay month after month, unless I work overtime. But that is an equation I get to bet on. Like I show up and I get paid the same. Whereas entrepreneurship, it's like you show up and you're like,
you don't know.
You don't know.
Yeah.
And for us, we've been showing up for 6 months and haven't made a dime. In fact, we're spending a lot of money. It's like the opposite. It's like, can you show up?
Yeah.
You know, so I would say, I think people do feel pretty certain in their jobs.
Okay. The last one, this idea of over responsibility. Say more on that.
It's the idea of realizing how much you are holding, not just for yourself, but maybe for your client load or the team or the people you serve. It's just realizing it is no longer just like me with my job description doing the one thing, it's now everything falls on you. The sheer amount of responsibility and the weight that you have to be willing to shoulder with that. Now, again, like there's the personal brand, the person that's going out and like maybe sharing their stuff on social media and using organic socials, not paid traffic, and just like, hey, buy this for me. Here's my link. I'm not sure if I would say they're feeling the over responsibility, because oftentimes when money wasn't coming in, I would hear from my students, mostly women, being like, I don't know what to do. My income is solely dependent on me. And I think that was really hard for them, where they're like, I'll put in more hours, but it doesn't necessarily mean more pay.
Right.
And so the feeling of like, it is all on me is a hard weight to bear.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's not even including, where are you at seasonally in your life? What's going on with your family, with health, with, caregiving? Like, what season are you in? Like, are you already dealing with massive responsibility in the home? And is this the season to take on the massive responsibility of entrepreneurship? However, most people don't realize what it actually is. They're just sold like it's going to be easier, more flexible, and all those things. And then they realize, holy moly, this is actually much, much harder. Yeah. It's a big stressor. So all that to say, we just kind of like talked about the real stressors and kind of unpack some of the myths and misnomers around entrepreneurship. So I'm going to introduce the term intrapreneur. Okay. So we tend to have very black and white thinking about this. We have like someone that's like, I either have the 9 to 5, I'm either working for somebody out there, or I'm building my own thing. And there's actually a middle ground. And I actually think we're seeing a rise in this significantly post-pandemic, really. I think it's actually been in the last 2 years, where people are realizing entrepreneurship isn't for me. I don't necessarily want to go back to the 9 to 5, but where can I bring my genius to someone else's vision? Mm. And so this is the idea of entrepreneur versus intrapreneur. Which one are you really? Because you might actually be an intrapreneur sitting in the wrong seat, holding way too much responsibility that's taking you out of the work you love, because you were told the only way to do this is to be your own boss. And you're holding all this responsibility where you're like, well, in a perfect world, I'm just doing this one thing that I love so much.
Yeah. So you might have started listening and been like, I'm good with 9 to 5. Great. This is not for you. Mm-hmm. But if you feel like you're in the wrong seat as an entrepreneur or as a 9 to 5er, maybe the middle ground is the intrapreneur.
100%. So
I like this.
So we're going to talk about the side-by-side snapshot. So here's the entrepreneur. The entrepreneur, they're responsible for creating the vision from scratch. Like, they are building the thing, building the vehicle, getting us from point A to point B. The intrapreneur, who works for the entrepreneur, they amplify the vision. They amplify what's already there. They're there to make it better. They come and take their skills and they're like, oh, I love this. I love where this is going. And they get to bring their ideas to something that already exists. So they're about improving, amplifying, magnifying, so to speak.
That's good.
Yeah.
And then, so the entrepreneur, this is one that is carrying all the risk and reward, right? They're shouldering the burden of getting this thing off the ground. They're tracking expenses. They're looking at ROAS. I mean, all that kind of stuff when it comes to a business.
Yeah, investing
right?
in the
margins,
tech.
Tech stack. The intrapreneur shares the risk, not to the same extent, but they collaborate on the results.
Yeah. So the risk is quite minimal for the intrapreneur. The risk is maybe them, sometimes being like, oh, I love what this company is about. I'm willing to maybe forego contracts over here to go all in with this company here. Or again, the risk of like, I'm working for an entrepreneur, the business could bust and then I'll be out of a job. That's a risk, but it's not nearly the same level of risk as the entrepreneur who's out there being like, I'm going to go
invest.
I'm going to go I'm going to invest. I'm going to go, get the skills, hire the people, put the tech in place. So the intrapreneur, they get to collaborate on the results. They get the fun part, man.
Yeah.
They get the collaboration and they get to share in the reward, but they don't have to shoulder the financial risk and the responsibility. So the next one, it's funny. The entrepreneur can thrive on control and chaos. Like they can
100% you.
Yes, they can ride that edge.
Yeah.
That it's the Red Bull sports person. Like they find thrill in the unpredictable and like the I want to be careful to not say thrive in stress because
there's a burden there.
There's a burden there, and my therapist is like, yeah, there's also
unhealthy.
an addiction to stress. I'm like, how dare you? When do I see you next?
Yes.
But it's like we know how to ride that line really well of like the balance between control and chaos and being able to move in that without collapsing. Whereas most people collapse. If there's not complete control, it feels awful. And if it's chaos, they're like, I'm out, right? Yep. Whereas the intrapreneur, they find a lot of safety in the clarity and the structure. So the entrepreneur that's up front, they're taking on their front line, man. And the intrapreneur, they're able to they experience the clarity and the infrastructure and the support within the organization if the company is being run well. That's always my hope for people that work for us. I'm like, I want them to feel like they're like, wow, this is a really fun place to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? You want to do the next one?
It's good. Yeah. So the entrepreneur must lead everything. We talked about this, that they're doing the vision, they're doing the initiatives, they're taking ground, they're bringing the business into any new phases, anything like that. And then the intrapreneur then gets to focus on their zone of genius.
They get to do their one thing, the one thing that they're good at, and then be seen as a really valuable asset in the company. I'm smiling because like this is like I love them because on the intrapreneurs like they are so valuable to us. Like I love watching them light up and stay in their zone of genius and bring their gifts to a company that values it and be like, listen, we need a killer social media strategist, or we need somebody who's amazing at brand design. And someone's like, listen, I dream in Canva boards and mood boards and colors and type fonts. And I'm like, yes, we want you, come here. And they're able to just do that without them being like, going out there and being like, hey, does anybody want design work? They're able to be that for that company. So they get to focus in their zone. Okay. The last one is, and we talked about this, the tolerance for uncertainty. The entrepreneur, they have a high tolerance for risk and uncertainty, whereas the intrapreneur, they value stability. Stability is important to them and partnership. So again, it's one of those like, are you in a season where you need stability? You might still, and you can still have the flexibility within being an intrapreneur, working like, especially if you're an intrapreneur working under an entrepreneur, like there's a lot of flexibility there. Like oftentimes if you're a contractor, like they can't dictate your terms or your hours. You're still in charge of your hours, but you're thriving within an organization. So good. I love this quote. Entrepreneurs are fire starters. Intrapreneurs are fire keepers.
Ooh, I like that.
They evolve the vision and help it last.
So is an intrapreneur like a fire wrangler?
A fire wrangler?
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. I feel like the entrepreneur.
Did I just like? I'm just deflated now. Gosh.
Do you want to expand on the fire wrangler?
No, let's move on.
Oh my goodness, God. But here's the thing too. I think the entrepreneur is not just a fire starter. They're also a fire starter and a firefighter, a fire putter outer, right?
Yes.
They're doing both. We start the fires, we put out the fires, we're managing the fires.
A fire putter outer.
We are. Okay. So let's talk. So if you're like, okay, this is maybe starting to land for me. We're going to talk about the signs you might be an intrapreneur and not an entrepreneur. So do you want to share some of the signs?
Yeah. Do you want to these, I think these might take some reflection.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is because I think sometimes when we hear a dream, we catch a dream, we very rarely will listen to the warning signs as we move towards that dream. Mm. And anything that tears up that dream or makes it not seem possible, we'll cast out very quickly. And so I think as we share some of these like signs, I think it would be important just to listen. Maybe you write them down later and you revisit them, and maybe you mull over these for the next couple of weeks and days, So anyways, all right. So this idea of you want to lead, but not carry it all.
Yeah. So you want to, again, you love the idea of casting vision, contributing, having ideas, bringing things to the table, but you don't want to shoulder the responsibility of making the thing work and making sure people get paid. Like holding on like the all or nothing, it's all on me.
Next one is you do your best work inside of a mission, but not building it solo.
Yeah, that's good.
I think it's a big one.
Yeah. When we get through this list, I'm thinking about talking about some of our people that we hired. I don't want to say their roles, but this is the things we heard from them. It's very reflective of this.
So you do your best work inside of a mission. So that mission has already been created, it's been casted, and you just get to thrive and sprint with it.
Yeah.
Another one is you're brilliant at ideas, but overwhelmed by operations.
Which I think it could be a little bit of both there. I think you can be somebody that you're brilliant at ideas, but you don't want to have to go build the infrastructure to go make sure the ideas, you don't want to be now how do I build the scaffolding? How do I build the foundation? How do I build the thing? Whereas now some people, if you're I'm not great with ideas, but I really love the idea. I love building systems. Let me build the ops and the infrastructure and moving people around and making sure things flow. There are people who love that, right? So it's kind of being aware, ooh, maybe I'm not a visionary, but I am an operational person. I love operations. Yeah.
You crave impact, but not ownership.
Yep. Again, you want meaning, not necessarily, it doesn't need to be about you. I just want to be a part of something bigger than me, right? Instead of it being about me, which feels like a big shift. The next one is you love collaborating and refining. That's big. And I will even say, I don't want you to hear with entrepreneurs that they're not innovating. They're just innovating within their zone of genius, within the things they love so much.
Yeah.
They're not having to innovate across 15 different things like an entrepreneur might have to. Anytime I have an idea, I'm thinking about it in 15 different buckets. I'm all right, that's the vision. Okay, what would that mean for tech? What would that mean for ops? What would that mean for fulfillment? What would that mean for our revenue, for our margins? I think at those levels, and I know you do too, right?
That's kind of it's similar to that idea of working within the mission.
Yes,
you want to collaborate on the mission. You're not just getting something out of the air and casting it. So, and the last one, you want creative freedom without the full financial risk. I think that is probably the biggest one that I think people get sold this myth that if they go out and be their own boss, everything's going to be good and dandy until they start realizing that there's real money on the line here, both to be made and to be lost.
Yes.
And so this idea of intrapreneur is you want that freedom. You want to be able to run and sprint, but you don't want the full load and burden of the financial risk.
Yeah. So that brings me to when we were hiring for our current company. One thing I want is I look for an intrapreneurial spirit when we hire. I am averse to entrepreneurial spirits because entrepreneurs tend to think very solo. They end up thinking okay, I love what I'm learning here. I can't wait to go and take this and go build my own thing, which is fine if that's what you want, but that's not what I'm looking for. Entrepreneurs, I like to they're excited, they know what their skills are, and they want to grow within an organization. And I am all about that. I'm cool, this is what you want to bring. I can help grow you in here. And they're not solo ventured. So when we were interviewing, we said, okay, and a lot of them came from working for themselves. They're out there promoting their services, their products, their goods.
Success.
And so they're out there having to essentially, I kind of used it in the hunting analogy. I'm all right, you're going out there hunting for your own food. Tell me why you're willing to give up the hunt. Why come work for us? Yeah. Is it because you're tired of hunting and you're looking to the entrepreneur or for us to provide the source for you? And many of them were I just love this one role. I just want to do this, and I'm tired of being head of all of these other roles just to keep this one role alive. So, even if you're, for example, if you're graphic design and you're like, all I want to do is just do branding and images and design and stuff for people, but I'm tired of going out there and finding my food because I'm tired of having to be a marketing expert or those things. So so all of them, but what all of them said was like, I want to be a part of a team.
That was one, which I thought was pretty
cool. All
of
them. They're like, we want to be a part of community. We love the vision and I love what I can bring here. And so when I realized that, I'm like, these are all intrapreneurs. Like, were they out there being entrepreneurs and could they? Yes. But it was actually what it was doing was it was draining them. They're like, well, how many times did we hear from people being like, I don't want to.
Just drained.
I
think that's the key piece is like the energy level. Could they do it? Sure. But it was draining.
It wasn't filling their cup.
And coming back to the start of the episode is like, is this pursuit of entrepreneurship, is it a dream that you are thriving into in the sense of that's bringing you life, or is it draining you because you're trying to make something fit that maybe you're just not all that sold on?
Yeah. And it's like, there's the pain in learning new skills. But when it's a skill I like, at least I'm like, okay, this is kind of fun. But if it's like, I have to learn this skill so that I can feed myself, that becomes draining as well. Yeah. Versus like, okay, if I was just to do this one thing. So,
okay, so you have written down just some ideas. These aren't the only intrapreneur roles. Are we going to go through all of them?
Yeah, we'll just kind of touch on them.
Okay, go quick.
Are you in a hurry, Scott Boss?
Yes.
Why? Are you hungry?
I am hungry.
I knew it.
I'm always hungry.
I knew it.
It doesn't fail that every podcast we talk about some kind of food, hunger, treadmill. I'll mention Oreos just to keep us consistent.
I just noticed how you were pacing. I was like, what's the hurry? I got you. Okay, listen. So here's the thing. I want to expose you to work that might be out there for you that you have overlooked or you didn't know was possible because you thought you either had to be the boss babe or boss dude or boss bro, or like you were thinking, oh my gosh, no, I have to go back to the workplace, which I didn't like either. So you're like, I like this idea of flexibility, some autonomy, but I don't like all the risk and the heaviness.
Yeah.
Here are some jobs we're going to tell you about. These are just 10. We're gonna look over them, but
just to get your mind,
just to get you thinking,
mind flowing. This isn't like hard and fast.
Yep.
And there might be some roles that let's go through them.
Okay. So, first one is a creative director or brand strategist, and I kind of was already, talking about that person. That's a person that like dreams in colors and font types and images, and they're like, I want to be the creative director for a company. The next one would be a program or a course developer. You're not developing your IP or your intellectual property. You're taking somebody else's intellectual property and you are building out the curriculum, the courses in a way that is digestible.
That's really cool.
Yeah. It's a big one though.
You get to think about like, okay, how does someone learn? You get to that zone of genius and how to deliver and fulfill on someone else's content.
Yeah, so people that might naturally thrive at this is like teachers, where they're like, oh, I know how to build curriculums. I know how people think, or actually I can think about different ways that people learn and implement that. So program or course, you're the developer. You're not the innovator or, the intellectual property, but you are the developer.
That's good.
The next one is director of operations or a COO. Goodness. Director of operations. This is the person who is like, how you describe it, because it is not my sauce, but we could not live without our COO. Christina, we love you.
Not your sauce. Yeah, ops, it comes in a lot of different flavors, depends on the business, depends on what you're fulfilling, but more or less, they're going to take that vision, the mission, and they're going to say, this is how it literally hits the ground.
Yeah. So they're thinking about, what does this look like? Customer fulfillment, what tech resources or people need to be in place to ensure that this goes from point A to point B. Like we call this the back end of the business. They're not in the marketing and the sales. They're making sure the fulfillment and the delivery is rocking. So they're operationally minded. They are not innovators. They're often integrators and implementers.
I think some ops can be innovators. Because
I think if they've been with the company long enough, they know how to innovate. Like Christina absolutely innovates with us.
Finding areas of friction and making it not suck.
Oh, yes. such a good point. Like, yeah, operators, they know how to look for friction in the process and they eliminate the friction to make a smoother process.
Great.
All right. Next, community manager or experience lead. So the community manager, like you're a culture person. This is where you're hyping people up. You're ensuring like, all right, how do I get people involved? Like if you're like, I'm great at culture, you'd probably be great at customer service or a customer success manager or a community manager. Those are great. The next is launch or marketing manager. If I was an entrepreneur, this would be me. Like you are thinking about, okay, we have this idea. How do we launch it to market? What are the funnels that need to be in place? What do the paid ads need to look like? What's our cost of acquisition? Like you are the marketing guru. You're like, I know how to, we call them the rainmakers. Like you know how to make it rain. Like you know how to bring people in, get them excited, get them buying. That is a different skill than the back end operations. Usually our rainmakers are not our systems people because it's just too different. It's very different. Yes?
Yes.
It's so true.
I agree.
All right. Next would be a podcast or YouTube producer. Yep. Like you don't have to be in the mic. You can have a podcast management company. There's a lot of podcasts out there and people are like, I don't want to edit my own podcast. I need you to upload this, build the show notes. Like there's a lot there. And guys, even if you're like, I don't have that experience, but I do like the idea of that work. There's so many ways for you to go and get educated in this.
There's a lot of resources, but also there's a lot of opportunity. Like you said, like in the sense of just because you can't do like, let's say, some name brand Joe Rogan podcast.
Oh yeah.
Right. Like, or whatever, like some big podcast, you can start small and get your, cut your teeth essentially.
Yes. Yep. So. People that are starting out will gladly pay you to not have to do that. I'm going to skip the next one. Okay. Client success or coaching lead. So maybe being a coach or being a strategist within someone else's program. So I had coaches working for me in the last business, and there were people who were like, I just love coaching. That's all I want to do. I just want to coach. I don't want to market. I don't want to sell myself. Like, so they go out and they get certified and they become experts in that, the company's material, and they are a part of the fulfillment side, right? Mm-hmm. I love this one. A ghostwriter or a content creator. You might be a gangster at writing content. Have you thought about how valuable that might be to being a content writer or, ghostwriter for somebody else's business when you understand their messaging? That's copywriting. And you can take on working for multiple businesses. Like I know people that are ghostwriters making 6 figures a year. And still working on their own time, know? And so, because it's what they do, it's what they're good at. They're like, yep, this company, and this company, they hired me to write their emails, to write all their captions, to check their copy on their websites. So that's a big one. Super and then, good. Do you want to do the last one?
Yeah, last one is chief of staff.
Yeah. So this is if you have experience like with hiring, leading teams, managing, like maybe you're not loving that at your corporate. Maybe it's time for you to look for like, gosh, maybe I want to be a part of, support an entrepreneur that has a larger company or doing these things. Like, all right, I'm great at hiring. I'm great at spotting talent. I'm great at developing people. So I think hopefully this gets you thinking of like, wow, there are things for me. Like another one I didn't even mention was like being a virtual assistant or an executive assistant, manage. Are you like a time management ninja? And if you are a parent of kids, you have to figure out busy schedules all the time. So being somebody's executive assistant, managing their emails, their calendar, their flights, their travel, that is a great job to have. Another one be like, virtual assistant. So running somebody's, hey, I'm going to send out your contracts today, their admin work. Guys, there's so much like that. We've barely even scratched the surface. But,
not meant to be an exhaustive list.
Yes. But at least to get you thinking. So like the thought I want to leave you with is you don't have to be the face of something to change lives. You don't have to be the face. Yeah. You don't have to be the founder. You don't have to be your own boss. You just have to find work that aligns with you. Like success is not about ownership or being the boss. Success is about alignment and fulfillment. Are you doing work that fills you, or are you playing out of position and taking on roles that are secretly draining you?
Yeah, that's good. So Happy Well homework.
Yeah.
New segment we just started last episode. Happy Well homework, right? Is to look at this and see what is energizing you.
Yeah.
What is energizing you? So as you think about like, does it energize you more to build a vision yourself, or does it energize you more to bring someone else's vision to life? So your homework is to reflect on that and see where's your energy align in the midst of your vocation and what you do for work.
And I would even say what you could do is write down, if you're currently an entrepreneur, writing down like all the things you're currently doing and just highlighting the things that energize you, fill you up. And then what I would do is I would take all of those highlighted things and maybe put it into ChatGPT and be like, all right, here's all the things that fill me, that I'm great at. What are great jobs I could have? Like, what are like 1099 contract jobs, or where do you recommend I apply? Can you write me a job description? Or a resume that fills and highlights these things. So all that to say, if entrepreneurship has felt like you've been trying to put a square peg in a round hole, it might be because it's not, entrepreneurship might not be the answer, but intrapreneurship might be. And that's something worth exploring. And we're seeing a lot more people moving toward it. So don't let your dream be a drain. We want you to actually pursue something that feels aligned and fulfilling so that you can actually build a happy, well life.
Love it. So that's our episode for today. Join us in our Facebook community, The Pursuit of Happy Well podcast. You can find it on Facebook and it'll be linked in the show notes. Give us a subscribe and, forward this to somebody. Maybe you have an entrepreneur friend that is like just hitting
their hair's on fire.
Yeah.
They're tired.
They're tired and they need just a little kind of glimpse of a different possibility.
We'll catch you in the next episode.